We get a lot of our topics here at Live on Purpose TV from you, the viewers, and many of you are wondering how to control your anger with your child. Let's jump into that.
In talking about anger, really knowledge is power. I have a good friend that always says, when you know better, you do better.
That is a really great saying. As we understand principles, it gives us a higher level of control over whatever that principle affects. Mm-hmm. Anger is driven by principles. Your brain is designed to take care of you, to protect you. And we have a natural fight or flight response.
Right.
This fight or flight response is usually how we experience anger. Anger is triggered by threat.
Okay.
Think about that for just a minute. If you feel threatened, your natural response in your body and in your brain is to fight or run away. And that's what anger is.
Right.
Threat is caused when what we expected doesn't match what we experience. Okay, so you're walking down a trail, okay? Just out, maybe enjoying the weather, taking a little hike, and suddenly a big old bear jumps out from behind a tree. Arrgh! Wants to rip your face off. All right, well, that's not what you expected, right? Your experience didn't match your expectation, and now you feel threatened.
Okay, so how does this work with parenting then?
What happens when what we expect from our kids isn't what we experience from them?
Yeah, we have a lot of anger sometimes. It's like, I told you to do X, Y, Z, and you didn't do it.
Right.
And now you're feeling angry.
Now, first of all, did you really expect them to do it?
Well, that's, I guess, something you need to consider. Especially with expectations. I think that's where we really get stuck. What are our expectations? And if we are expecting our child to be at a stage of development that they are not, then it's really easy to become disappointed because they didn't perform the way we wanted them to perform.
Then when our expectations don't match our experience, it triggers us into that fight or flight response.
Right.
So Vicki, your point reminds me that sometimes our expectations can be very misguided or inaccurate. Mm-hmm. Like we're expecting something from our kids that they're not quite developmentally ready for example.
Or perhaps they didn't even understand fully what they were supposed to do.
Right. We can't always change what it is we experience. In other words, you don't control your kids and how they're going to respond, but you can change your expectation.
Okay.
And this is a little hard because we get used to thinking that our kids should do this or should do that, and we set up that unrealistic expectation. We can change that. And if we change our expectation, we're less likely to get triggered.
So help me understand this, though. You can't just walk around expecting less from your child all the time. So talk to us about that.
Of course, we're going to hold an expectation that our kids will continue to develop and learn. We had one of our little neighbor kids over here playing with some toys, and he was building a tower, and the tower fell over. And it struck me because he said, "It happens." Do you remember that? It happens. He didn't get all upset. He just realized, oh yeah, it happens. And I was proud of his parents for having taught him that. What if we were able to say that more with our kids?
One of the things I wanted to go into when I asked you that question is the expectation isn't necessarily that our child can't perform, but it might be our expectation is that the child may not perform the first time or of his own volition or that sort of a thing. So that goes back, we keep referring back to our stages of development, but it's so important to go back to those. If a child isn't doing what you've asked them to do and they're being uncooperative, it doesn't mean they're still not going to do that thing at some point. It's just that they're not in the stage, they're in stage 1. They haven't moved into stage 2. So your expectation is different. Your expectation can still be that the dishes get done, right?
Sure.
It just might not be that they do it willingly.
Well, and what if you adjusted your expectation to be, my child is on stage 1, I expect for them to argue about this. Yeah. I expect for them to be resistant or not cooperate fully the first time. If you're ready for that as a parent, and you have some tools in place.
Yeah, and it changes the way you respond.
Exactly. And that's the whole point, because if my anger is tipping me over, it's because of my own expectations around the situation. And you know what? Honestly, this is hard to do.
Oh, yeah.
As a parent. I got to learn this working on inpatient psychiatric units, where I didn't expect these people to cooperate. We had locked rooms. And I worked on both adult units and on children's units. But I learned this is just my job. This is exactly what I expect from this person, and I didn't feel angry.
Right.
As a parent, take a look at what your expectations are that are causing that anger. It's going to really empower you. Vicki, you and I were watching a Netflix special from Brené Brown, which I highly recommend. I love Brené Brown and her work. And she gave us a tool that I think is really useful. When we feel frustrated or upset, it's usually because of a story we're telling ourselves. So this ties right into the expectations that we've been talking about. What if you were to ask yourself, what story am I telling myself about this? That raises the awareness. It's a level that I like to call metacognition, which is thinking about thinking. What story am I telling myself about this? When you acknowledge the story, it puts you in a position where you can actually choose a different story if a different story would serve you better.
Right. And that kind of goes along with when you have a reaction to, really, because that's what anger is. It's a reaction.
Right.
Instead of an action, it's a reaction to the way someone did something, or that expectation, that failed expectation. When you have that reaction, you can look at it and rephrase in your mind how you wanted that to go, and practice a new response. And so I love do-overs. As a mom, sometimes when I get mad at my child, I'll say, okay, I just would like a do-over. Here's how I wish I would have responded.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes you can't have the physical do-over, but if you rephrase it and play it all out in your mind again, practicing a different response, a response that doesn't include the anger, you have to kind of practice it, because you'll go back to whatever path is already established. Right. So if you want to do a new one, a new path, a new response, you have to practice it. Either physically out loud with your child in a do-over, or mentally or in your bedroom on a do-over without them if they're not willing to go there.
Vicki and I are so honored to be on your parenting team, and we honor you as conscious, positive parents. Join us in our positive parenting community at parentingpowerup.com, where you can also get access to a free training. Hope to see you there.